Hi there. Today I want to talk about big career shifts. Um, say that you are, let's use myself as an example because this is very relevant, in civil engineering and land development, and you don't want to do that anymore. How can you pivot out of that? Um, First you're battling all of the people who don't um, don't have the creativity to see that a lot of things overlap. There were plenty of times where when I was shifting into writing that, people had this like idea that engineers either A, can't write, or they just, they have this belief about what being an engineer is. So you're counteracting that, like, once an engineer, always an engineer belief. And so that is a very real thing. I can say though that often if you're encountering that, it's probably a place that you're not going to be happy working, because if they can't think a little bit differently about skill sets and how you can benefit them, because you come with a fresh set of eyes, or you don't have exactly what they're looking for. Yeah, I don't know that you'll necessarily be happy there. So that's one thing that when you start to take charge of your career in this way, where you're like, okay, what is it that I want to do, and who do I want to work for, and how do I want that to tie into my life? Once you really just, as I know several people have said, once you like take like that role of CEO of your own career, you you kind of take on this like ownership and power over what you're willing to tolerate, when you start making more informed and deliberate choices. So I know we've all been stuck in that place where we just need a job, we need money, we need to pay the electricity bill, and we don't have a lot of luxury for being picky. But if you're shifting and you're doing it mindfully, and you do have the time, it is a huge luxury. Not one that you just want to like sit around and be like, oh, I have all of the time in the world, and then you don't kind of do anything, because that's a big problem with those of us who like to procrastinate and only work on deadlines. But a lot of these kind of bigger decisions and these bigger moves are easier to make when you aren't desperately trying to find another job. There's an old adage that it's always easier to find a job when you already have one. So, but if you're looking to make a big switch, part of what you have to do is you have to be able to kind of boil down what the skill sets are that you have and exist in what you want to be doing. And maybe you get to be creative about how you get into that industry. So maybe if it's more of an industry shift, and even a role shift, but say you want to move from the construction industry into a nonprofit industry, and say maybe you're an accountant and you don't really love accounting, you want to do some more stuff. Maybe you want to do fundraising, maybe you want to do something else to help a nonprofit, but your skills right now are accounting. So you could go completely like backdoor, where you start as an accountant in one of those firms where the skills are much more directly transferable. And then as you get involved in that organization and you see where they need help and what you can start to fill in, and you start to know people, when they want, people like to make internal hires, you can shift around within an organization until you get to where you want, build that experience, and then take that elsewhere. So that's one way you can do it. Another way you could do it is to think about the things that you really want to do, and look at what those jobs are asking for. If you're finding any roles that you think you would like, and kind of, okay, this is what this job requires, this is what I do now. At its simplest level, when you're like, okay, there's a trick that I learned in marketing writing was to always just, anytime someone said something was a benefit, you're like, okay, but so what? And you keep asking so what until you get down to like the very core of what it means for the person who's reading it. Is it, yes, I can do this, I can do your books. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, it means you don't have to worry about wasting time doing them yourself if you're not skilled at it. Okay, but so what? Okay, well, and then you aren't worried about getting arrested by not paying your taxes. Okay, so what? Well, that's a big concern, especially if you have a family and people are relying on you. Okay, so you keep boiling it down to that, like that's the smallest part. So what is it about this skill set, if you boil it all the way down, and how does something that you already do boil down into the very same skill set? And then you just connect those dots, and you're going to have to do that for people. You will have to do it less for people who are open-minded, which is probably a place that you might feel better working, that, people that can also think outside of the box. But this is where, at least in my experience, people who have ADHD are very good at seeing these unique connections of how this and this are related, even though it might not seem like it. Like, you can talk through the logic of it. And a lot of times the logic is even straight line. It's not even our crazy, like, ooh, teacup ride way. I mean, there's a line like, this is the same as this, because at its heart, this is this and this is this, and those are the same thing. And so that's another way that you can do it. And then you can frame your resume to focus on those skills, and you compare the skills that you have with the skills that the job needs. And so you're comparing, your resume focuses more on skills rather than your career trajectory that might look very in a particular box that that presents an image of your skills that isn't quite accurate. So that's another way that you can do it, is again, like figuring out how the skills that you already have, because you have them, even if you've jumped around from a couple of different jobs, what is it that you liked about all of those positions that you stayed in? What didn't you like? What are the similarities, and in both what you didn't like and what you do like? Because you can also look at that, like, okay, I know that I don't like doing X. This job, even though on the face of it, it sounds cool, 50% of the job is doing X, and I don't like doing that. So maybe there's something else that has a balance of this and less of that. You really get to be creative with this and build something, again, that is going to fit as best as possible with your life. I mean, nothing's going to be perfect. Probably you're always going to have to do something that is not one of your strong suits or that you don't love doing. But when you are able to kind of suss those things out and figure out what your big strengths are and what you love to do and how that it ties into what you've already done and what you don't like to do, so you can minimize that, then you're just much more likely to find a position that you're excited about going into, which will reflect in your communication with the company that you're looking to get into with anyway, because you'll feel more passionate about the role. That will come through in how you are presenting yourself. It all kinds of builds on itself. I mean, I know we've all gone into, I expect at least we've gone into job interviews where we're like, yeah, this is great. It's up, I have all this experience, and you're selling yourself and it's just not in you. And, sometimes you can fake it and you get the job, and then you're like, yeah, but we needed a job and that's just what we do. But if you start viewing yourself as the CEO of your career, and you start planning these bits out and trying to figure out what it is that you really need to fit your life, you can start structuring that, even if you're looking to move from a regular career, like a corporate job, to another corporate job, or, a full-time regular, you will get a regular paycheck kind of job. You can do it even within, even making a big career switch. Sometimes it's not even that you need to make a big switch. Maybe it is just the industry. but you can go pretty significantly, and there's a couple of different ways to do it, and whichever way makes you feel the most comfortable, you can or you can do some sort of hybrid. You can tweak around. And that's what's great about this. Once you realize that you're not stuck in the box that you might feel like you're stuck in, there's a whole world of opportunity out there. And I'd love to hear about some things that you've thought of where you're like, oh yeah, these two weird things that don't seem related are very much related, and here's how. Or if you have any questions about how to, maybe a specific situation that you're looking for some direction, feel free to put it in the comments. Like and subscribe to keep up with the next video is going to be about how to choose to start a business related to the field that you're currently in, and some things to think about there. And then after that will be like the big change job, like starting your own thing, also in a very different field than what you started in, which is what I did. Probably the most difficult of all, but you know what? I love a good challenge. Anyway, I will talk to you soon.